Hey guys, today I'll be showing you this electric sunshade from TesStudio. Hello TT,
I am here.
close sunshade.
Close.
It has voice control. We've got 3 buttons to control it. Got one in the middle, and one on the passenger, another on the driver's side. It keeps the heat out very well in the summertime, but the installation is, I'd say, medium to high difficulty. Stick around to find out more. Hey guys, Evander here, back with another video, and today I will be installing and reviewing a Cybertruck product finally again, the Electric Sunshade from TesStudio. This baby's got voice control, so very excited to install this thing. It's going to be replacing the ambient starlight roof light that I've had for months and months now. So I'll have to take that one out before I put this one in. If you're in the Bay Area and you're interested in that starlight dome light, leave a comment below. I will give you a deal you can't refuse because I have no use for that thing once it's out of there. So this is from TesStudio, and currently there'll be a Prime Day bonanza going on here. So they're giving 30% off with my RedKnave20 code temporarily till 7/11, July 11th. So be sure to take advantage. RedKnave20 is going to get boosted up to 30% off this or anything else from TesStudio's website. Link in the description below. All right, we're gonna get into the install, but again, I gotta remove this ambient starlight dome thing, and I gotta do this in reverse. So I'll be right back while I figure out how I put this thing in and do the opposite. So let's get this thing out of here, and then we'll get started on the install. Well, just my luck. So it took me about an hour to take the ambient starlight out. And during that hour, apparently my microphone was still on and had died by this point. So I have to do a voiceover for the majority of the install. But that's okay. You've got my rambling out of there, and I'll just give you the essentials. So I'm just describing here, this is all the wiring I'm having to pull out from that ambient starlight. And later I'm going to put some more wires back in there for the sunshade. And here we go. I've removed the ambient starlight back to the glass, which is what you will have. And included in the kit here, we've got these blue gloves. You do have to get into the frunk underneath all that trim, so helps keep your hands clean. You get that screwdriver, and this is a 48 volt to 12 volt converter. And then they give you 6 of these little plastic tabs with a felt top. This felt side faces the glass. And then we have the sunshade itself. It's pretty much pre-assembled. There is a kind of shroud that is Velcro attached to it, and all the wiring is already done on this side. So I'm going to have to take this bundle of wires here, and that gets routed up into the frunk area, which I'll show you later. Next up, I'm getting the sunshade and putting it inside. Ideally, you'd want to do this with a helper because these edges could poke something and you don't want to bump into something on accident. So be careful if you're doing this alone. Just be mindful of each side. And we're not going to raise it into place first. We're just going to rest it against the front seats, which are in the forward position. The back seats are raised up as well, obviously. And then unbundle the wires because we're going to put it in the headliner and run it into that front passenger area. Back up into the front passenger side, I've got this little plastic stick tool that is provided, and I'm working it underneath the front airbag there up in the trim. Make sure you go underneath it, not above it. And then I taped the wiring harness from the sunshade to the end of it and then pulled that little stick through. It's fantastic. Very easy. I know I'm in the shot here. Sorry about that. But you're just going to pull those wires through and leave a little bit of slack on the sunshade side so that it can be raised up against the glass later. The next step is we need to get that wire down the side trim of the cant rail into the little passenger trim that I'm very accustomed to being in. And then there is a little hole we need to work that wire through from the inside of the truck, basically, to the outside. So you want to take the little stick, and we want that cable to come out of this little gasket hole by the door. So stick the plastic thing in there and feel around until you either grab it or you might even see it. And then you're going to pull that into the vehicle so that you can do the same thing and tie that harness to the plastic stick, and then you'll easily be able to pull it up and out of that little hole, and then put the little rubber grommet thing back in place. Then we can put it up front, and then you'll just slide it in through the trim like that and go around to the other side, and then you just need to pick it up and pull it through into the frunk. Here we are in the frunk area, and you'll see it a little easier than I have my angle here, but just grab that stick, pull it through gently because you are pulling quite a bit of cabling, and there's not really much in there to get in the way, but just be careful. Then you will, in my opinion, route it a little bit better through some of this metal work here and just get that cable tucked neatly and safely out of the way. I found a little nook here that it can slip through, and there we go. You don't need very much slack once you're in the frunk, and you'll see I have the DC converter already laid out there. You may have noticed I did not show how to get into this frunk area. There are videos out there. It's not that difficult, but you can look that up on your own. Here we've got a close-up of my really crappy wiring job. Since I expect to get the generation 2 of the sunshade in like the next month or so, I don't really want this to be a permanent installation. So even their instructions kind of tell you just put the wires together and tape them up. They did include some shrink tubing on their cabling, so you can shrink tube these if you'd like, but again, mine was kind of a semi-permanent installation. I just want it in there for at least the next few weeks, and then I'm going to take it out eventually, since their Generation 2 does not need to go into the Frunk area, which uses that Frunk outlet, which you need to enable in the settings. So I just did a little wiring job here. The other side of these wires, which were already done, weren't as nice with the shrink tubing and the connectors, but I managed to just kind of push them in and again did a really crappy job, but it works and it was enough for this job. Here I've got a little close-up of the wiring job I did, and I zip tied the converter to one of these cables. I actually redid this since I'm doing the editing, and I pushed it a little bit further back, made sure everything was tucked further in there since I'm not sure where the frunk sits on top of this stuff. So I did come back to this later after I looked at it. I was like, I can do better. So I tucked it further back, did a little bit better tidying up of my cabling, but just want to give you a close-up of where I kept that DC converter, since the instructions don't really tell you where to put the thing. There's no adhesive on it. It just has these little holes for that box. So that's what I came up with in putting it into the frunk area. And on to the most difficult part of this installation, funny enough. It was raising this damn thing up to the ceiling. Again, it would have been really nice to have a little helper to help guide the area you're not directly looking at, but it took me quite a bit of time to get this thing up and in place. So it took a little finagling. I eventually figured it out. But man, it was really hot that day, and the glass was scorching hot on the roof, and the floor was scorching hot on the weather mat. So I was getting burned left and right. The trick to this was to raise it in a way that the rear sides were raised in place first, and then you're going to want to start putting in those plastic tabs, and you go short, long, short. Those are the tabs. I was very confused because I thought they were supposed to be parallel to the truck's shape, and it was not. So I figured it out eventually. Alrighty guys, it has been probably a week or two since I last recorded for this sunshade. Now that I have had a chance to use it and I'm not in the 90-degree heat right after the installation, I think I'm in a good mind state to finish the review and tell you my thoughts on it. So I'm going to start with my likes and then move on to the dislikes. It does support voice control. So I can say, hello, TT. I am here. Open Sunshade. Very quick to reply. So if you say stop motor, stop. Very quick. Open Sunshade, very responsive. So I love that. I initially did not think this had voice control, so apologies, it does. It has 3 buttons. I love that. So you've got one here in the middle, and one on the passenger side, and another button on the I mixed those up. Passenger side, driver side. So everybody has the ability to reach a button to open or close the sunshade. Close sunshade. I don't know why she's still listening. I'm not sure how long she does that. Maybe she just listens for the keywords. The performance of the sunshade is amazing. I can feel the difference when this thing is closed. Like right now, I can feel the heat from the glass right above this. It is just emanating heat. This helps insulate it and keep that direct sunlight from shining through. I have noticed it is cooler in here, especially in this summer heat, that it does perform well to keep the heat out. I do love how flush this thing is. It's got some nice materials. It's not quite a Alcantara or suede look, but it is a soft fabric. I'm not sure what this is made of, but I do like the fabric. It's close enough of a match. Looks different in the camera, but it's a black color. It's not gonna stand out like too badly. I kind of like that it uses the Frunk power, but I just wish it was easier to get into that Frunk power. So I'll get to that in a moment. Continuing on to things I like. Initially, when I would close the sunshade, if I closed it directly after installation, this thing would go all the way back. It would hit the end, and then it would open up and stop about there. So I think I was tripping some sort of sensor. It would run into the back, go, oop, I hit something, and then it would retract, just like the tonneau does in the vault. It hits something, it'll retract maybe 6 to 8 inches, and then stops. So I reached out to TesStudio. They had an answer for me, so I'm going to give this to you because it was not in the manual. So if you buy this, and this is bouncing once it hits the back, you're going to repeatedly push the button, get it all the way back, stop right where you want it, and then hold the open and close buttons for 20 seconds. That will calibrate it to be the new end point. So fantastic. I'm glad there was a way to train it where the stopping point is. So now when I open and close it, it knows how far back to go before it reaches the end. And that was just what I needed. All right, let's move on to the dislikes. The first thing I didn't like, there is a speaker in the Cybertruck about here. I say about here because it's covered up. I do not like how this, I'll call it a shroud. I don't like how this shroud has covered up that little speaker thing. I feel like maybe they should have went around it. A little strange that it just completely covered that up. But yeah, I, I, I don't know if this, I'm not hearing a sound difference necessarily. But again, I'd rather they not cover that up than what they did. Wanted to show you there's Velcro in here, but my Velcro has separated from the headliner they have here. I could easily fix that with some glue or some more adhesive tape, but just want to make sure you are fully aware that is capable of coming apart. My whole thing has stayed up despite this one falling out of place, but that is a little bit of concern. Here is the other angle. So there's a speaker somewhere behind this. It's covered up currently. Wish it didn't do that. This is what the trim looks like. It takes up not too much room, but you do lose some head space. about fingernails worth from glass to the top of the sunshade, and very very scientific way of measuring. So I think it said maybe a couple inches total, but that is including this big hump right here. You've got some loss in your headspace, but it's mostly on the sides, so it's nothing to be concerned of, and it's off center from where the head sits. So honestly, you don't really lose too much headspace except for these little sidebars for your passengers in the back. And of course, the major dislike, the Frunk installation. Real pain in the ass. Getting in there, you have to go through so many nuts, bolts, the whole shebang to get that trim out. Wouldn't recommend this for the amateur installer to do this yourself. That's kind of a weird area, and the wiring job I did is subpar at best. I did not want to use, I think they gave you like shrink tubing on the wiring. I'm not trying to shrink tube that since I'm getting it the 2.0 version hopefully soon. So I kind of just did a very janky install, put the wires in, crimped it a little bit with some pliers, electrical taped it up. It's getting the job done, but it's definitely not in there as a more permanent solution. But I'd rather have the wires in there not too badly screwed up and soldered together if I'm taking this thing out in the next month. So I didn't spend too much time with that install up front, but it did make me a little nervous to get in there, deal with those wiring. A little annoying. Speaking of annoying, you have to turn on the Frunk power in order for the sunshade to have power. So unlike the side harness, which always has power as long as you're in the vehicle, for this one, you have to have the power feed enabled in the settings of your Frunk. I'm glad it's a separate little setting, so I can turn it on or off whenever. It doesn't bother me too bad, honestly, because I'm probably either going to have this thing open or closed. I'm not going to have it half open. So in the summertime, I'm going to have it closed, and then I turn my power feed off. So it doesn't really bug me. If I need it on, I just go to settings, tap it, turn it on, open or close, turn it back off. It's not using a lot of energy. So that's a plus, I suppose, is it doesn't use a lot of energy because I'm not opening and closing it all day, every day. I'm going to add this to my dislikes. The instructions, they weren't the greatest. Some of the pictures are a little fuzzy. There was no install video for this one, so I had to kind of just look at these directions and try and figure out some steps in between the pictures where they didn't quite explain some things. But I'm smart and figured it out. But some things would have been nice to know, such as the clips on the sides, that it goes short, long, short. That would have been nice. The diagram, I think, was trying to explain that to me, but maybe, who knows, maybe I'm dumb, I just didn't understand it. Overall, I'd say I give this thing a 4 out of 5. I think they just improved so much on the 2.0. We'll see when I get that one. But from what I've seen in the instructions for that one, it looks much simpler to install, and the overall look is much better, and things are a little bit more tighter. They figure things out from Gen 1 to Gen 2. So like this is like Velcroed in, so I can pull this down to see all the motor and stuff. But I don't really care for the Velcro. Like, it does a good job. It hasn't fallen down or anything. But I feel like there's got to be a better way to put this thing up there without having some Velcro holding it up. So, if you guys are interested in this and you're down for a moderate to hard installation, 30% off is going until July 11th, 2025. So use RedKnave20. Link in the description below. That RedKnave20 applies a 30% off discount, again, through July 11th on anything. So if you want to get the 2.0 version ahead of me, by all means, go ahead. I'm probably not going to get it in time to do a review. So 30% off. Take advantage of that while you can. Anything on TesStudio's website. They're being very generous with that. Usually it's just a 20% for my code. So take advantage of the holiday sale. I think they're competing with the Prime Day. So jump on anything you can see that's super expensive, because it's going to be almost third of the price off for a limited time. All right, guys, let me know what you think of this one below. Thank you for 500 subscribers. I just hit that milestone, I think, yesterday. So thanks to everybody who subscribed. As always, more good stuff coming. I will see you soon in the next video. See you later.